it probably feels a lot of shame. So let me talk about why somebody stays. First, like a person may feel like people won't really believe me if they really knew all the information. They're not going to believe me. So they often stay because like, for example, my abuser convinced me I was crazy through time. And you guys, there's like, I'll just use this big example. So one night I spent in the psych ward while we were together, and he actually made sure that happened. And he made sure to not call the hospital and tell them that I wasn't crazy and all these things, so that I would actually have to spend a night in the psych ward. And it was horrible. One of the worst nights of my life, truly. Like, it took me so long to not have so much shame about that night, to be able to voice that happened to me. It was the most horrendous experience. And this was before physical abuse started. But after this night in the psych ward, the physical abuse started about a month and a half later. And I actually got a restraining order on him. And after that restraining order, what happened was I didn't stop fully being in contact with him because, again, I'm in the abuse cycle for like almost 2 years now. And I was very, very locked in it. And throughout those months, he kept referencing that I was in the psych ward and I'm crazy. And I made everything up, that he would never do those things, that I probably inflicted those marks upon myself. And like, you were in the psych ward, you were in the psych ward. It kept coming up. You were in the psych ward. You're crazy, Kate. Like, you literally are crazy. Like, remember, you spent a night there. You're crazy. And so like, I started believing like people aren't going to believe me. Like, maybe I am crazy. Like, I literally was like, I don't know if I can tell anybody else about this, because like, they're not going to believe me. And so I'm telling you, the things an abuser will do to keep you locked in with them, you cannot even begin to understand the kind of psychological impact it has on somebody, or why they would keep going back to something that is horrible for them. But I like to equate it to having a drug addiction. An addict knows this thing is not good for them. The substance is not good for them, and it could kill me, but they keep going back. And to an outside person who is not an addict, it makes no sense. Why would they keep going back? Why would they keep going back? This is so bad for them. They keep destroying relationships. This is so bad for them. It doesn't make any sense for somebody who is not the addict. Like, you look at their life and you're like, I don't get this. But for the addict, it makes sense, because you hate this thing, but you're stuck in this cycle. Okay. Another reason somebody might stay in an emotionally abusive relationship is because they have built this reality in their mind that their abuser will follow through on the threats that they have stated to them. And those threats keep them trapped, because enough manipulation, enough threats, you're starting to freak out. This person has all the power over you, and you believe that they are capable of those things. Threats like that they're going to hurt you or expose things about you, or let alone kill people in your life, which it could come to that. It could come to them saying that. I mean, they could threaten to like expose you at your job and get you fired from your job. They can threaten to ruin you financially. They can threaten so many things. And so much of it is empty threats, right? Are they really going to do those things? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not, but you don't know. You don't know. And I got threatened so many times. And I even got threatened in future relationships, emotionally threatened, and blackmailed. And it is the worst feeling. It is the worst feeling. They also, as a victim, you also typically know your abuser very well. And you fear that you may not be able to safely escape, because you know them very well. You know their tactics. And something I do want to just say here is that 20% of homicide victims are not even the domestic violence victim themselves, but actually their families and friends and neighbors and persons who helped intervene. Which I'm not saying that for the people listening so that you aren't going to support and help your friends who are in an emotionally abusive relationship, but I just am saying that it is very serious. Sometimes these abusers do follow through on things and really harm people around them. Abuse is all about power and control, like I have said. So that means that when a victim tries to leave a relationship, they threaten the hold that the abuser has over them. So if they leave, the victim knows, if I try to leave, that is going to be the most dangerous period of time, because that abuser is going to feel like they've lost control, and they're going to go wild and do anything it takes to get get the victim back into their control. And so, and sometimes you put it off, like, I can't do it because, like, I know they're going to go crazy, and I can't even imagine what they're going to do. So if you threaten their power and their control over you, you've probably done it before as a victim, so you know what happens. And so if you really try to leave, you're like, I can't imagine what they would do. So you may have fear, you may have shame, you may have been gaslit a lot, you may have been intimidated, you may have low self-esteem at this point, you may have a lack of resources, you may have children, you may just feel coerced and under their control so extensively. And all of those reasons, and many of them combined, are just some of the reasons why it's hard for a victim to leave their abuser.